a very royal narcissist. I first wrote a couple of years ago about Meghan Markle and provided a video of the same. You may wonder why I have revisited this. Well, I'm doing so for a variety of reasons. First of all, there may be some people who have not accessed the series, and because, as you will find with forthcoming videos, I will be adding to the series extensively, it makes sense to have the first instalment readily available for those who've not accessed it previously. Furthermore, as various commentators have noticed, my analysis has indeed stood the test of time, and the various behaviours that are also covered in future videos have been borne out as the ones that I identified in the very first of this series. It is noteworthy to be able to listen to this and look back at the behaviours, particularly knowing more of what you know now. Thirdly, it is to enable people who may not have accessed this material to have a real-life example of another narcissist operating in the world. Let me tell you, that as a consequence of the A Very Royal Narcissist series, I have had many people contact me, thank me for writing the analysis because it enabled them to see the behaviours in someone else that they were being subjected to in their own relationships, whether they were romantic, work, or familial. In short, were it not for my analysis of Meghan Markle and her narcissism, these individuals would never have realised that they were ensnared by a narcissist. And this is a very important point. It enables the two worlds to be bridged. The world of narcissism with that of the wider world, wherein many, many people are subjected to the behaviours and manipulations of narcissists, but do not realise that this is what is actually happening. Accordingly, for those individuals, this series is provided so that it bridges between those two worlds, to bring them enlightenment and to see. For the rest of you, it is enable you to see the analysis. For those of you that are already embracing the world of narcissism by understanding more about it, it provides you with that opportunity to see the behaviours as they unfold and have my expert analysis. I also make a very important point. This analysis is about narcissism and nothing else. It is nothing to do with the fact that she is black. It's nothing to do with the fact that she is a woman. As I've explained before in another video, I have no prejudices. I hate everybody equally. And, as you'll receive from the other A Very series and more that are to come, there are a variety of subjects who fall under the Tudor scope and analysed in this way. I do so from an impartial, objective expert analysis. I'm focused on the narcissism, not whether the individual is good or bad. You can decide about that. The whole point of this is to provide you with critical analysis. So if you're listening to this and you decide that you're going to accuse me of being a racist, you can go ahead. I really don't care because you're wrong. Furthermore, if you don't think that she is one, you're entitled to form a view, but there's no point arguing with me about it. I've undertaken an extensive analysis of the individual concerned. And I'm saying all of this to the heart of understanding. If you don't agree, that's fine. You don't have to. But it's pointless arguing it with me because I've done the analysis and have already worked it out. Save your breath or your fingers. Of course, notwithstanding that, I know that there will be individuals who will have not listened to the video and they'll have just seen the picture and the title and they can't help themselves. Away they go, tippy-tap-tap type. There's nothing I can do for you. Good luck with that. And thus, a very royal narcissist. Rachel Meghan Markle married Prince Harry, and that union attracted a lot of attention for the debacle surrounding the bride's family's event itself. One cannot avoid the repeated mention of Miss Markle and Prince Harry, and they are rarely out of the press headlines, just the way that she likes. An announcement was made on the 15th of October 2018 that Miss Markle was pregnant. A swift pregnancy following a wedding is typical of the binding behaviour of the narcissist to fall pregnant or cause a partner to become pregnant quickly to ensure that the ensnared, empathic victim is bound tightly as possible to the narcissist. On top of that, Miss Markle attended the wedding of Princess Eugenie on the 12th of October with her coat unbuttoned around her stomach, when it need not have been, to invite speculation that she may well be pregnant, and of course draw attention to her and away from the bride. We know now, of course, that she has given birth to a child, Archie. Such speculation at the time became confirmation with the announcement shortly thereafter that Miss Markle was pregnant, again drawing attention to her and away from Princess Eugenie, the bride. There was ample opportunity to make an announcement a decent time before the wedding or a week or so thereafter, but instead it has been declared in a matter of days, thus enabling Miss Markle to steal someone else's thunder and maintain her thirst for attention, namely fuel. These upstaging antics were noticed by Eugenie's mother, Sarah Ferguson, who launched a Twitter blitz of photograph of her daughter's wedding as a response to the behaviour of Miss Markle. Is Miss Markle a narcissist? Her half-sister, Samantha Markle, certainly thinks so, as she has been particularly outspoken about Miss Markle, calling her a narcissist, a shallow social climber. She has also criticised Miss Markle for failing to provide any emotional or financial support to her and Miss Markle's father once she became famous. Others have described Samantha Markle as being jealous and exhibiting a sense of entitlement. Are Samantha's remarks accurate? Do they demonstrate that Miss Markle is a narcissist and that those attacking Samantha are the coterie and lieutenants of Miss Markle as they attempt to limit any damage and discredit Samantha? Or are they the remarks and the ramblings of a jealous sibling? It is, of course, difficult to assess that in isolation. However, it is interesting that Samantha chose such a description. If she wanted to insult Miss Markle, she might have chosen other unpleasant descriptions, such as branding her a whore, a gold digger, standoffish and such like. Therefore, there might be some grain of truth when viewed cynically in what Samantha Markle has said. Samantha Markle also commented that Miss Markle watched the royals on television when young. Hardly anything unique in that. And Miss Markle preferred Harry. She has a soft spot for gingers. And it was always her ambition to be a princess. Now, it's hardly a revelation that a young girl wants to be a princess. Many do aspire to that dream as part of their childhood and drop such a notion as they grow older. Other family members have not been shy at expressing their opinion about Miss Markle. Her uncle Michael Markle stated, "I'm upset and surprised about not being selected for the wedding, but if they don't want me there, then I don't want to go." Half-brother Tom Markle Jr. remarked, "She's torn our entire family apart. She's clearly forgotten her roots." He claims that he sent her a congratulatory letter on her engagement, which was not replied to. Two other uncles have been snubbed, one a bishop, admittedly of his own church, and the other a retired US diplomat. It appears that only two members of Miss Markle's family have actually been invited, and the farce surrounding her father's attendance, non-attendance on her wedding day, has clogged up many a news feed. It transpires that it is her mother, Doria Ragland, who will attend and give Miss Markle away. Her mother had only arrived in the UK 3 days prior to the wedding, when one might have expected a longer attendance given the high-profile nature of the wedding. Did she not want to come across sooner, or perhaps she was not permitted to do so? Is it the case that Miss Markle is actually surrounded by a dysfunctional family and thinks it's better that they should not attend? Or is it the case that whilst her family may have their issues, they just wish to share in Miss Markle's happy wedding day and would do so without complication? However, Miss Markle instinctively regards their attendance as a threat to her control, manifesting as embarrassing behaviour, a reminder of where she came from, which she now wants to forget, given that she is in the rarefied atmosphere of royal life, and thus is most content to keep them an ocean away and uninvited. A caring individual, one exhibiting emotional empathy, would most likely invite family because, well, they're family. Yes, the odd relative may not be invited for cogent reasons, but to only have 2 family members attend out of so many does smack of a decision to keep them away, because they were no longer serving any purpose and they would damage the image. If so, such behaviour is in line with the narcissistic behaviour of maintaining a particular appearance, cutting people off readily and asserting control. Such a conclusion gains credence with the revelations from former friend Inaki Priddy, who was friends with Meghan Markle for 30 of Miss Markle's then 36 years on the planet. Miss Priddy commented, "Meghan was calculated, very calculated in the way she handled people and relationships. She's very strategic in the way she cultivates a circle of friends. Once she decides you're not part of her life, she can be very cold. It's this shutdown mechanism she has." Miss Priddy's observation, if accurate, paints a picture of significant narcissistic behaviour by demonstrating calculated behaviour to achieve an aim. Friendship is developed for ulterior gain, not the friendship itself, transactional in nature. The switching behaviour, white to black, the swift execution of such behaviour evidencing a lack of emotional empathy. Having been a friend for such an extensive time, Miss Priddy must have some basis for the remarks. Then again, might she be an envious friend? Her friendship ended with Markle owing to the way that Miss Markle treated her first husband, Trevor Engleton. A disapproval of such behaviour does demonstrate emotional empathy on the part of Miss Priddy and lends credence to her credibility with regard to her observations. Miss Markle and Mr. Engleton were together for 6 years and married in 2011. Soon after, Miss Markle achieved her breakthrough role as an actress in the series Suits and moved to Toronto. Mr. Engleton was the one who travelled back and forth from California to Toronto to support his wife. He put in the miles as he shuttled to and from Miss Markle with no suggestion that she reciprocated. Notwithstanding his dedication, the marriage did not last long and they split and divorced in 2013. Mr. Engleton commented that the split came out of the blue and that Miss Markle posted the engagement and wedding rings back to him to show that it was over. Did Miss Markle disengage from Mr. Engleton without explanation, just relying on the symbolic act of returning the rings? If so, such haughty and dismissive behaviour would accord with the behaviour of a narcissist. Miss Priddy explained that once the nuptials had been secured between the two, Miss Markle behaved like a light switched off. This is further indicative behaviour of compartmentalisation, black and white thinking, and that Miss Markle felt her relationship with Mr. Engleton was secured through marriage. She had control and therefore no longer had to maintain a veneer of respectability and cognitive empathy towards him. In other words, the golden period came to an end. Apparently, Miss Markle had commented about Mr. Engleton previously. If anything were to happen to Mr. Engleton, she wouldn't be able to go on. Yet, Miss Markle ended the marriage. Of course, people's feelings may change, but emotional empathy would still preserve the relationship in most instances. And there was no suggestion that Mr. Engleton did anything to invite such treatment. On the contrary, he remained a faithful and devoted husband. But it appeared that he had outlived his usefulness, and with Miss Markle's career rising and in the ascendancy, he was no longer required, and thus jettisoned with familiar callousness and swiftness, which is a preserve of the narcissist. There is no attachment, no emotional empathy, the compartmentalisation enabling the individual to be cast aside as and when is required. During her time in Toronto, there were suggestions that whilst married, she became close to a Michael Del Zolte. Whether there is any substance in this is unknown. It was also rumoured she had a fling with the golfer, Rory McIlroy, but again, this is unconfirmed. If those suggestions were true, then this does accord with the behaviour of a narcissist who has no concern with regard to fidelity and also operating with a sense of entitlement and an absence of emotional empathy. Indeed, if this was the case, then with Mr. Engleton secured by marriage and ensconced in California, he then enters devaluation as the intimate partner primary source, and it would not be a surprise for Mr. Del Zolte and Mr. McIlroy to become ensnared as intimate partners' secondary sources. However, the extent of any veracity with regard to those rumoured extramarital relationships remains unconfirmed. It is, however, confirmed that following the end of her marriage, Meghan Markle moved on to Canadian chef Corey Vitello, and the pair dated through 2014 to 2016. Further comment has arisen that her relationship with Prince Harry arose while she was still with Mr. Vitiello, and she then ended the relationship with him because Prince Harry was in the picture. If accurate, such a shift from one person to another, especially one which would very much be regarded as a trade-up in terms of wealth, status and position, would appeal to a narcissist. This demonstrates the compartmentalisation, lack of emotional empathy and sense of entitlement. It would also involve the acquisition of character traits. Of course, people do move from one relation to another, and occasionally that might happen with overlap, and that is not itself determinative of that person being a narcissist. However, it usually is, and such behaviour which is ultimately self-serving and selfish, whichever way it's looked at, is not flattering, and of course it must be looked at in the aggregate, in the round with other indicative factors, and it is then that the evidence begins to mount up. Miss Markle and Prince Harry's relationship has naturally been well documented, and they became engaged after just 18 months of meeting. Some may see that as rather quick, but it is not unduly hasty, and certainly there are many narcissists who would outstrip that time period with considerable room to spare. A number of Miss Markle's behaviours certainly weigh against her in terms of narcissism. She was a stripper, a role as with being an actress that appeals to someone with high narcissistic traits, even if it doesn't make them a narcissist. She stated she was a stripper on her CV, clearly unconcerned about how that would appear, evidencing a sense of entitlement and a lack of accountability. The reference to her being a stripper was then later removed from her CV as she began to move in more refined circles, facade management. Her body language in interviews and engagements with Harry has shown her to stare at him for an overly long time, clasp his hand and place her hand repeatedly on Harry's back, the Trump power pat, all of which denotes a desire to dominate and signal that she is in charge, whilst no doubt using plausible deniability to reject such an accusation by claiming that she is being supportive. It is the assertion of control over somebody in her fuel matrix. There have been suggestions that she hasn't actually graduated from Northwest University, although claiming to do so. If this is correct, this is grandiosity, the telling of lies, and facade management that narcissists engage in. Mirroring. She wore a blue bracelet identical to Harry's and has repeatedly worn outfits and also adopted poses mirroring Kate Middleton, the Duchess of Cambridge, Princess Diana, and Pippa Middleton. The photographs and footage evidence this repeated narcissistic trait of mirroring. There are allegations that her wealth is overstated. She is said to be worth US $5 million, yet was living in a relatively poor area of Toronto in property apparently paid for by the studio responsible for Suits. If this is correct, this again shows grandiosity and facade management. She touts herself as a feminist and taking up progressive causes, caring about mental health. However, was content to wear a £56,000 engagement dress, so much for being a humanitarian, has apparently done nothing to assist her own father who has health issues, and as for her commitment to progressive causes so far, this appears to have been writing a letter aged 11 or thereabouts to a soap company, complaining about a sexist ad, and writing a piece for Elle magazine about her struggle concerning her racial identity. Hardly a litany of firebrand commitment, and therefore evidences the hypocrisy, the facade management, and fake empathy of the narcissist. She has expensive taste and likes to show off her connections, as evidenced by the list of famous friends and high-end products which existed on her Instagram account before it was closed down. Again, grandiosity. Prince Harry has never met her father, which seems a very strange step, given he's the father of the bride, and Prince Harry has no difficulty in travelling around the world. Does Miss Markle want to keep those troublesome facade-damaging relatives away from her target, perhaps? Compartmentalisation and the assertion of control. The typical narcissistic behaviour of compartmentalising their lives and isolating perceived troublemakers. Many of Prince Harry's childhood friends have not been invited to the wedding, but many celebrities have. One doubts that this is Prince Harry's doing, but rather the actions of a controlling and calculating mind that does not want reminders of a world she did not occupy, and instead prefers to fill it with vacuous status-boosting celebrities who are only there to say, "Look at me anyway," character trait acquisition. The cumulative effect of these behaviours, the treatment of family, the intimate relationship pattern, especially towards her ex-husband, and the observations of long-standing former friend, do cause the conclusion that Miss Markle is a narcissist to be reached. All of the above, some of which are confirmed and others remain speculative to state, if all taken to be accurate, in aggregate demonstrate a sense of entitlement, a lack of emotional empathy, a lack of accountability, black and white thinking, the use of interpersonal relationships as devices for self-gain, lying, grandiosity, haughty behaviour, a manufactured version of self, facade management, a desire for recognition and response, fuel, switching, the need to assert control, the exhibition of a response to the perceived threat to that control, compartmentalisation and isolation, all of which support Miss Markle being a narcissist. This conclusion is also heavily supported by Prince Harry himself. This is a man who lost his mother in tragic circumstances and at a very young age, followed his mother's hearse with the eyes of the world on him. He has faced repeated rumours about his real father not being Prince Charles but James Hewitt. It is clear that these experiences have had a significant impact on him and would suggest that he has suffered considerable damage, a trait which is attractive to the narcissist and is there for exploitation. Prince Harry, no doubt, has a significant extrovert streak. He's not academic, but is industrious, well-liked, and enjoyed something as a reputation of a party prince. However, be under no illusion that those in the upper echelons of society have always enjoyed a good knees-up and engaged in substantial bacchanalian excess. The difference then was that the world's media and social media was nowhere near as brazen and intrusive. Furthermore, those around the royals were far more discreet. Prince Harry is in a way no different to many of his family and ancestors. He has just been seen enjoying himself raucously rather than it be hidden. Prince Harry is an empathic individual. He has inherited Princess Diana's caring and empathic traits. He has evidenced this through his career in his army, his establishment of the Invictus Games, and charity work such as his trek to the South Pole. He admires Kate and William's settled and stable family life, which is a contrast to that of his own childhood. And it's patently clear that this vivacious man is one of empathy, who creates the establishment of his own settled life, and his various traits are a magnet to the narcissist. The traits and behaviour of Miss Markle, coupled with her selection of Prince Harry and his own traits, confirming that the very suited narcissist will achieve her childhood ambition and become a royal, and so with it the creation of a very royal narcissist. As I explained, this was written prior to the wedding, over 2 years ago, and this forms the basis now as there will be further instalments tracking a variety of behaviours which underline this initial analysis that I provided, demonstrating its accuracy and how it has been borne out. You can await further episodes and instalments of A Very Royal Narcissist to enable you to see the behaviour and link it to narcissism. You will find it interesting and instructive. Thank you for listening.